I love this so much, the sense of memory. Didn't we forget what we knew? Didn't we have an inkling, and they only confess it later? Oh, how many times have you heard this? That's the name I was looking for, and you think you had no idea. You're talking to your spouse. I can't remember what street it was, what year was it? When it comes up, we have recognition on a list. We can sometimes faith is like that. Didn't I know this was what was going on all the time in that trial? With hindsight, 20/20 hindsight, faithful God's eye view, we can affirm what at the time felt cloudy. Didn't our hearts burn within us? Oh, we knew somehow, even though we didn't quite know. Hey, we are finishing up at Genesis, a book I recommend to you. It's called The Great Spiritual Migration by Brian McLaren. Real quick, this book we've been doing all year in Bible study and bringing it into preaching as well. He talks about moving in 3 steps, 3 different migrations, I should say, from a system of beliefs to a way of life. Moving away from sheer doctrine, cognitions, being too much legalistic about checking each box for your affirmations, to what are you living like? Great stuff. Not a surprise to many of us, but liberating just the same. The middle section of the book, a difficult section. Bible study groups kept on teasing me because every 2 weeks whenever we met, it would be, okay, this chapter is really the toughest chapter so far. And then next week, okay, this was the chapter that was really this chapter was the one. If we can get through this chapter, easy chapters to read, shattering chapters, upsetting, resonating chapters. In this case, moving from a violent God of domination to understand how much we've used and continue to use religion to oppress people. How much we, especially in the white, wealthy, male world, love our God because God keeps on affirming my ego and putting me in charge. How damning it is to have to look at your faith and realize, how is my faith in fact affirming a violent God? How do we move into a non-violent, liberating faith? Again, old news to some of us, something you've heard me for years, and McLaren has it together in a wonderful way, breaking us open. And then in this last third of the book, and we're almost done, moving from organized religion to organizing religion, beautiful. The bottom line is, we don't care about Genesis. That's not our business. Bottom line is, what is Genesis doing to change the world? Bottom line is, how are we using our faith out there? The other 167 hours are really our concern, not this hour. That's upsetting because a lot of us have put in a lot of years, entire careers, protecting the institution. How do we move from focused on the organized religion to organizing? This last chapter, McLaren says, really what we're about. And he has a whole section on how social change happens from institutions to movements to individuals. He reminds us it always starts one-on-one. And then what we're called to be is social poets. Involved in politics, called to keep on claiming justice, out there on the edge, paying for it, in all the ways I mean that. And if we can bring a poetry to it, a beauty, a recognition of graciousness, how God is in the world, that's what makes it more compelling. Telling our story is what he is as social poets. So that's where I got to this finally. We're all remembrants. We're the ones who do the remembering. Last week, Palm Sunday, wonderful conversation. I love the work you did with my sermon on the 3 steps of God's initial will, operant will, the kind of the reactive incarnation from the initial plan on to God's universal whole story, big story arc that includes especially how we remember and tell the story of Jesus, and maybe more importantly, tell the story of our lives. Rembrandt, of course, was known especially for his use of light and dark. Rather than garish, here it is, he used shadow, like some of you did so well in telling his story. So I want us to be the Remembrandts, is who we should be. By the way, do you know anyone know the Remembrandts pop group from? Oh, yes, exactly. Opening of the Friends. They decided, you know what? All we're doing is making pop music, and that's really true. And they said, so we should make it just as good pop music as we can, and impeccable production values on their LPs. Wonderful stuff. Great accessible. So I thought of them this week too. You should be like that. It's only your story. Yes, it might be pop music. Do it well. Tell it artistically and in Rembrandt's way. When you find your art, it's going to especially be about darkness. All right, friends, I'm going to ask us at offerings today how we relay our story. I'm going to ask us when we have the best opportunities and what we might overhear if someone else heard us in our story. But I guess I want to include this to you. We've done this on retreat a few times, and one Sunday 8 years ago, we even did it here. It's called the Emmaus Walk. And on a Sunday morning, I had you come in and we sang one song. I said, sit down, everybody. There's no sermon today, but I am pairing you up with 2 other people, and I'm sending you outside into the building, around wherever you want, for half an hour to tell your story. You've each got 10 minutes. Have a timekeeper and one listener, and then keep on, and then rotate. And you had half an hour just to go and walk, and some of you just did corners here, because we so seldom get a chance to tell our story. And 10 minutes is not enough time, trust me, but it's about 9 minutes more than anyone listened to us previously that week. And what we did on retreats as well, the stories that always come back the same. We came back and did some reflecting, and then at the last 10 minutes of worship of, what did you hear? What was it like to have 2 people listening to you along the road? And almost universally, you have stories of, well, I never knew this about even this person I've been in the church with for a decade or 2, but more so, when I hear someone else's story, complete with their struggles, even though they might have a hard time telling me, what I hear is God's hand at work. What I hear is faith. I heard of broken marriages and unemployment and disappointments and kids. And what I heard was faith. And the people who tell the story often were like, that's what you heard? To be community together as they have the audacity to really tell our story. When you tell yours, what is poetically peculiar to you? Do you know how artists develop their thing, their shtick? I've got a friend back in Boise who, her thing was take printed paper with words, script on it, overlay it with thin kind of colored stained glass window stuff and coat it with something. And she kept on doing this in many different ways. So finally you'd say, oh, that's her thing. Each piece different, each about kind of the power of the written word and what we do and do not see in it and how it becomes beautiful. Artists have to find their thing. You don't want to be reproducing what someone else does, because you won't get your art degree for one. If you're too far out there, people say, what are you up to? But then you keep on honing it till it becomes your thing as an artist. Friends, where's the resurrection in your life happened? What I kept on thinking was, at brunch today and at dinner tonight, you'll have an opportunity. How are things going? What's up with you? Or you'll launch down your story about your great grandkid pictures, about what's up at home, what your children are doing you're proud of, what's been fun happening at church. And I got to tell you, that's all exactly wrong. It's exactly what you don't want to be saying. I understand that when you ask me, how's it going? You don't mean it. I'm talking about the next conversation. That when in our lives we can tell the truth about our struggles in every relationship we had, work, social, neighbors, marital, parenting, childing with parents and grandparents. When we tell the truth of struggle and the darkness like Rembrandt's, then people see the art. It's hard for us to do. It's counterintuitive because 98% of our talk is designed to build up our ego. I'm asking for something different today. McLaren has a great line in his book from a Muslim who says, look, we have lots in common. The more progressive faith in terms of love of justice, equity, socioeconomics, taking care of the planet, any number of things. But if you Christians, this Muslim said, if you Christians could be a little more honest about your own struggles with your tradition, it would free us Muslims up to do the same thing. Wow. It's really two egos talking. In our interfaith dialogues, McLaren's saying, could we be honest about institutional decline? Could we be honest about working on faithfulness and disappointment? Could we be honest about the many, many Sundays we want to give up? If we could do that, then we make a real connection and leave some room for resurrection. It's this one piece, friends, I found this week. What the companion piece must be on the Sistine Chapel ceiling of creation, God reaching toward the hand of Adam at that moment when the spark happens and there's life and it begins. Here's the companion piece to creation, redemption, where at the cross, this rotten criminal says, remember me. And Jesus says, that's good enough for me. It wasn't, have you been in synagogue very much lately? Have you given to the temple? Have you passed your faith on to your kids and grandkids? Think of the laundry list of things that were not there from this louse, this cheat and murderer, whatever he was, to only say, remember me. Friends, if you've done something worse than killing someone, you should feel free to disregard this last few minutes. If you got brunch, you can go. You can go. If by chance you have not earned the reprobation of society, like this criminal being killed next to Jesus, then I got to tell you, all you need is, you're covered. All you need is a remember me, Jesus. That seems way too easy. It's a scandal. Isn't he going to tell us, join Genesis Church, and we're passing the offering plate. It's coming soon in the bulletin. And then, no, that's not what we're here to say. If you have the audacity to speak the truth about your crummy life, that's what it is. That's where resurrection needs to happen. If you have the audacity to tell your spouse, your kids, your friends, how much you're not enjoying work these days, how you are ticking the days till retirement, how you sometimes wonder if it's all been for naught and if you've left any legacy whatsoever. It's really hard to speak the truth about our family relationships. I know that. I pick on my wife a lot, mainly to set a model, I hope, for some sort of transparency and honesty of saying relationships aren't easy. None of them. Not the person you're sitting next to right now. I know this because I've known you for 11 years in many cases. We've talked about each other. I've seen you in action. If you could be brave enough to say, my God, don't forget me. Remember me. That's all we need. Extraordinary. Your friends are buying into the lie that you present all the time of, I got it together. Yeah, things are going well. They're good. Yeah, you know work. Yeah, well, you know how kids are. Yeah, they don't write or they don't call, whatever. We're buying it. We're buying it. And it's all a crock and it's all hiding something. That tomb breaks open and the light comes out and shines truth on our day. Truth on our crucifixion lives. Truth on our broken parts. And it is that's designed to give us courage to wherever we are, whenever we are, start running with the disciples, or to finally remember, didn't my heart burn within me when I heard her tell that story? I know that's true for me as well. That's what can give us the faith to over coffee, Starbucks, over the back fence, in the car, walking in the trails, to finally have the audacity to say to somebody, He is risen. How dare you? He is risen? I know who you are. I know how much money you're making. I know what kind of cars you drive. I know the stories you tell me about your kids. He is risen?
He is risen.
Wow! He is risen?
He is risen indeed.
I'm so proud of you, and I've never loved you more than when I understand you carry the cross of Jesus with you, but dare still say, He is risen?
He is risen indeed.
Amen. Let's sing.